The halo effect works in both positive and negative directions. If the observer likes one aspect of something, they will have a positive predisposition toward everything about it. If the observer dislikes one aspect of something, they will have a negative predisposition toward everything about it. So here are a few things that you can do to avoid falling into this trap. Employ objective criteria. Detach yourself from the person. Discount appearances. And do not accept hearsay about a person. Avoid judging a person by a singular accomplishment. We call these singular accomplishment predictors. In hiring, employee multiple interviews would really help get a better assessment of an employee, and avoid in-group favoritism. Another cognitive trick has to do with what's called primacy or recency. The recency effect is the phenomenon that occurs when people are asked to recall in any order the items on a list. Those that come at the end of the list are more likely to be recalled than the others. A primacy effect occurs when information is being encountered in an order that has a strong impact on judgment and memory of an event. For example, an employee could have an excellent track record, but experience a recent setback. In the mind of an evaluator, that person might be fooled by this trap and overlook all of the accomplishments of the past, and therefore make the wrong decision. This can distort its importance or relevance and is something to be careful of. So what can you do? Well, just be careful of pre-issues hype similar to anchoring, and perform research thoroughly and get facts early on. Another thing that some people rely on that you have to be careful with is intuition, because it plays a central role in everyday decision making. Often when presented with a decision, we have an intuitive sense that one alternative is better than another without being able to report our reasons for feeling so. We just have a gut feeling that that's the way it should be. Now, this can speed up the decision-making process, but it can also be risky. Intuition is based upon experience. Like a boxer or a chess player, they develop a sense of what might happen next by consciously or unconsciously examining patterns stored in their memories. On the other hand, and as mentioned in module number 1, some decision makers seem to have an innate sense when it comes to making key strategic marketing decisions, often relying on their experience and gut feelings about what the decision at hand should be. Lee Iacocca here is pictured. He's a great example of an intuitive decision maker. His years of experience in the auto industry and a sense of what customers want enabled him, while serving as the CEO of Chrysler and Executive Vice President at Ford, to bring products to market that demonstrated exceptional customer appeal. Some of these were the original Ford Mustang, the Lincoln Continental, the Chrysler minivan, and a host of other high-earning products. Or the same type of intuition that characterized Iacocca applied as well to Robert Lutz, a top-ranking executive of both General Motors and Chrysler, who consistently, uncannily read market needs and delivered to customers products with the highest appeal. Here he is with the Dodge Viper, one of his brainchildren. But caution is required. Not everyone has the same intuitive strength as an Iacocca or a Lutz. Therefore, a decision-making methodology that will work for a mix of different managerial types is the best way to go, and this will be, as you probably know already, the main thrust of this course. So things that you need to think about with intuition. Recognize congruent patterns. Spot pattern incongruity. Maybe respect the first option. Maybe it's something that you might want to use. But before you do it, analyze your decision carefully because it can be dangerous. You should also invest the time to understand the situation. Don't confuse what you want, in other words, desire, with intuition. And you probably should consult experts for a second opinion. Another tool that's used in decision making is the analogy. It's a close cousin to intuition and thought process that relies upon things that you've done before in making a decision. Let's examine a page from Tom Sternberg's playbook. Prior to 1980, most office supply stores were small mom-and-pop businesses. Then Tom Sternberg came along and became the founder of Staples. He created his well-known office superstores using analogies to the evolution from grocery stores to supermarkets. And it really worked. Benefits being it saved time, it enables reflection upon what worked and didn't work in the past, and it gives you the ability to leverage past choices and decisions. So, regarding analogies, here are some tips. First of all, invest the time to understand what you're really doing. Consult experts for a second opinion, and never overlook the differences while seeking the similarities. So here is a quick summary of the various traps and biases we've covered. Overconfidence, sunk cost efforts, halo effect, primacy, recency, groupthink, insufficient facts, conflict avoidance, limited choices. Before we say goodbye to module number 4, be sure to carefully study the YouTube clip on decision making when you have a number of options. In this illustration, you can see a decision matrix designed to help the consumer decide which equipment might best suit their needs based upon a weighted importance numbering system, measuring reliability, speed, and simplicity. This method required some thought, but ensures the better likelihood of the right decision. Make sure that you complete one of these and turn it in as your assignment. Here we have, in the example, one taking a look at a brand with reliability, speed, simplicity, and then moving down the line. It's very possible for you to have maybe more than one particular example here, so you can compare different products side by side. So welcome to module number 5. At this point, it would be a good idea to revisit module number 4, which was a particularly long module, for just a brief review. Just a reminder, to get the most from this module, it will be important that you complete all assignments listed in the syllabus, and be sure to meet the deadlines for any written tasks, quizzes, and discussion postings. In this module, we will examine the process of decision-making in groups when there are a variety of options available. Our first case study requires a historical explanation and background before our analysis of the decision-making process is undertaken. The Bay of Pigs invasion, known in Latin America as Invasion de Playa Girón, was a failed military invasion of Cuba undertaken by the CIA-sponsored paramilitary group Brigade 2506 on April 17, 1961. The Cuban Revolution of 1952 to 59 had forced dictator Batista into exile, and he was replaced by the 26th July movement, which is a group that was led by Fidel Castro, which severed the country's formerly strong links with the United States after expropriating the assets of U.S. corporations and American mobsters, and developing links with the Soviet Union, with whom at the time the United States was engaged in what was known as the Cold War. U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower was concerned at the direction Castro's government was taking, and in March 1960, Eisenhower allocated $13.1 million to the CIA to plan Castro's overthrow. The CIA proceeded to organize the operation with the aid of various Cuban counter-revolutionary forces, training this group in Guatemala. So over 1,400 paramilitaries divided into 5 infantry battalions and 1 paratrooper battalion assembled in Guatemala before setting out for Cuba by boat on April 13, 1961. The invasion was an embarrassing failure. In fact, President Kennedy, who had just come into office, called it the worst experience of my life. And he was quoted later by saying, "How could I have ever been so stupid as to let them proceed," them being the CIA and the Army, etc. Commencing on April 15th, 8 CIA supplied B-26 bombers attacked Cuban airfields and then returned to the United States. On the night of April 16th, the main invasion landed at a beach named Playa Girón, or the Bay of Pigs. It initially overwhelmed the local revolutionary militia. The Cubans' counteroffensive was led by Jose Fernandez, before Castro decided to take a personal control of the operation. They were a force to be reckoned with, so on April 20th, the invaders finally surrendered, with the majority of troops being publicly interrogated and put into Cuban prisons. The root cause of why the invasion failed had more to do with the method employed in making the decision to invade. Hidden agendas and groupthink provided the perfect storm for the new president, who was following in the footsteps of his predecessor, Dwight Eisenhower, the legendary commander-in-chief of the Allied forces in World War II. The fact is, Kennedy was presented with a plan that was hatched before he was inaugurated. He accepted that plan, not wanting to undo the work that had been done. He fell victim to wanting to maintain harmony within the group. And Alfred P. Sloan, the former CEO of General Motors, he was quoted to say, "Bedside manners are no substitute for the right diagnosis and, of course, the right decision." So the results were catastrophic. You'll see this in your assigned case study. Kennedy admits to a colossal mistake. He blames the CIA, but of course it was his fault for approving it. 162 Cuban defectors were killed, and 1,200 invaders were killed. The prisoners that were captured were released for $53 million worth of food and medicine that had to be given to Cuba. There remained permanently hostile relationships between the United States and Cuba, until now, for example, and they may still be there, even though President Obama has opened up the barriers. And public embarrassment certainly was there for the new president. The decision factors that were involved: really bad information, insufficient facts, overconfidence, CIA sunk investment, all the time and money they had put into the plan, and groupthink. It was a complete disaster. So common decision-making process errors: wrong stakeholders, too narrow option list, phrasing a situation incorrectly. So sources of mistakes. Here's our decision maker trying to make a effective decision, but he's ineffective. Insufficient alternatives, deference to higher management, reliance upon intuition, biases, groupthink, misleading framing, organizational traps, insufficient facts, bad information, recency, absence of neutral eyes.